This is Jim with AP Logic. I wanted to talk real briefly about working smarter rather than harder. We see a lot of startups that have to get over tricky humps in their development. We've been through that kind of thing. I'm sure we'll go through it again. And it's easy to say work smarter and not harder, especially when you're the one who's not struggling. Kind of like telling a sick person, don't worry about it. You'll be better, and when you feel better, everything will be good. The reality is that when you're in the daily grind, it's very difficult to think about what does it really mean to work smarter. You're just trying to get through the next day. And so, three things. The first is don't be afraid of confrontation. I can almost guarantee you there are people that you need to confront, whether they're investors or business partners, potential clients, whoever it is, and you need to set expectations correctly. You need to tell them what's not working and what needs to change. And sometimes those are difficult conversations, but it will save a ton of time over waiting until the situation escalates and you have to deal with it later. So that's the definition of working smarter. Second thing is a willingness to change course. No one wants to admit that they're wrong. Certainly in aviation, we have to change course all the time, flying long. The other day, I was going up to meet a client in the Bay Area, and the air traffic control tower where I was landing went down. They had a power outage, and the backups didn't work. And so I had to change airports and do a bunch of things. And, I had to reset my expectations and realize that the controllers are trying to help me and not be frustrated, but rather, pick a new airport and land there quickly. And then in the end, I was able to actually get to where I was going. And I made the meeting within 15 minutes because I was willing to be flexible. But my initial reaction was to be frustrated. So course changes are always difficult. The sooner you make them, the easier it is. That could be changing technology platforms, changing staffing, whatever it is. That's point number two. And point three is to actually get away and get the big perspective, which allows you to kind of, do the first two. So I mean literally walking out of the office. I'm talking about taking a day off. For me, sometimes it's in the airplane or driving around in a car is a great way to just clear your head and think. It could be half an hour away from the grind. It could be a whole day. It could be multiple days. But you need to get some altitude, so to speak, and get a bird's eye view. You won't be helping your team if you're in the trenches fighting with them all the time. They need someone who sees the big picture of the war, that sees the strategy that's required, the strategic shifts that are required. So while it may be tempting to be in the foxholes with your team, you're not actually going to help them that way. You need to spend a little bit of time on the front lines, but definitely not all your time. So three things, again, don't be afraid of confrontation. Be willing to change course quickly and early. And finally, get away and get big picture perspective. I think that kind of defines working smarter. It's actually hard to do, but it will save you a lot of time. Feel free to comment, and I would be glad to respond to you if we can.